Welcome to AI with Supreet. This is Supreet again. And as you know, some of you know that I have been a developer for a very, very long time, over a decade. I've been doing traditional coding, manual coding for a very, very long time. But for past some weeks, I've started exploring vibe coding. In fact, my last video was also about vibe coding, and it was mostly about Lovable. And in last couple of weeks, especially on the weekends, I've spent a lot of time using vibe coding platforms like Cursor, Windsurf, Lovable, and Replit, and created many small apps here and there. And in the process, I have compiled a list of practices which I believe when I follow them, it helps me a lot. And in fact, I have been able to write complex applications as well, not only single page applications. Yes, that is good. Vibe coding is great for that. But with some discipline and some good practices, you'll be able to create complex multi pages, multi AI agentic applications as well with vibe coding, all with vibe coding without having to write a single line of code. Of course, um, it's not that the code that will be written via platforms like, for example, Replit. You will have to still have to add a lot of security features to it. You'll have to do a lot of testing. You'll have to make sure that it's exactly the kind of quality that you want inside out. And if you follow some of these rules, perhaps you will reach that level. I have been able to do that, and I wanted to share this guide with you. All right, so this is a small video wherein we'll discuss what are some practical things that you can keep in mind to do an effective vibe coding. I am being using, as I said, Lovable, Cursor, Windsurf, Visual Studio Code with agentic mode, in agentic mode, all of that. And today's video we will focus on Replit because so far out of all the tools that I have used, I think I have used Replit the most. Okay, and I love it so far. So let's start with this guide. So the very first thing is the mindset and the approach. You have to consider your AI developer or the agent or the framework or the tool set that you are using, the agentic AI developer IDE, or a tool like Lovable or Replit. You have to consider it as a collaborator, not as a magic genie. When I started first using vibe coding, my idea was that there is this AI coder available now, which is very fast, which is very smart. Of course, it has a lot of data available to it. So you just throw it any task and it will be able to give you the entire application. I tried converting a Xamarin Forms application from Xamarin Forms to Mavi, and it was a big application, and that failed, miserably. So doesn't work like that. Do not treat your AI coding agent or the product that you are using, in my case, Replit or Lovable or Cursor even, do not treat them as magic boxes. Don't treat them as genies to whom you give one instruction and they will be able to do everything for you. No, they are your collaborators. What does that mean is, basically, number one is that you have to uh, consider them as a fellow developer, right? So what happens is that you basically throw some ideas at them, but also ask them for their suggestions. And sometimes it's also don't blindly go ahead and trust their suggestions either. It's a good idea to go ahead and share, explore in your own ways, like, for example, googling around, figuring out whether what your agentic tool has said is correct or not. Double validate that. And if you do that validation, or during your exploration, if you find out something new that was not one of the suggestions from your AI tools, share links back so that it knows about them. Because what happens is that a lot of these models have their own cutoff training date, and if they do not have access to internet, then what happens is that they don't know about what is happening latest post their cutoff date. In this case, it really helps that you also explore. You still do the exploration on your own. Do not blindly trust your AI tools, and work with them as if they are your another developer and you are collaborating with them. I'll give you an example. For example, if you see here, this is my history here. So for example, if I go back a little and go up a little, you'll see that I ask it a lot of questions, I ask it a lot of questions and I brainstorm with it before I tell it to go ahead and before I tell it to go ahead and implement something. So let me just try and find that. Maybe I'm not able to scroll to the top. Let me scroll to the top. Yeah. You see, when I started, what I was doing was is I gave it a big PRD based on what are my requirements, and I asked it to build this app as per the specifications and as per the details mentioned in this doc. Doesn't work like that. And then I figured that it's a better idea to go step by step, right, and treat them as collaborators. So I'm not able to find, but the idea is that, for example, I'm writing a multi-agentic framework application, and I asked it what are some good options that you can use, and one of the options that I suggested that can we use Crew AI, for example, or a Microsoft agentic framework. What is that called? Forgot the name. And LangChain, and which one should we use? And it said that LangChain is a good idea, and it gave me a lot of reasons on why LangChain is a good idea. But then I searched further, and I figured that for multi AI agentic tools, LangChain has come up with something called LangGraph, which is the newer version of how you do multiple AI agents that collaborate with each other, right? So I read the technical document. I shared the link of the technical document and how to's with Replit, and I said that I again asked that is it a good idea to use this, and it was like it went through the document and said yes, it's a better idea to use in our context. So my first suggestion is that you use AI tools as collaborative partners, as co-developers. Don't treat them as magic boxes. Okay, you brainstorm with it, you ask questions, you create plans, you go to and fro, put in a lot of effort before you start working on it. All right. And then the other thing is that an active involvement is needed. Again, let's say if the plan is created, once you have identified um, what is the steps that you want to take. Again, keep a copy of that outside of the AI framework, because if the AI goes haywire during the process, and if you have the original plan in place, then what happens is that you can bring it back, saying that do step two now, and you both know what is step two because there is an original plan that you both created together. So that helps a lot, because AI has this tendency of going haywire a lot if you don't control it properly, right? So and to do that, it requires an active involvement. It cannot happen that you gave it a command and then you are going for a coffee, or you are not even sitting at your desktop, and you believe that the AI will be able to write your code for you. Yes, it will. But the thing is that, for example, in my case, I wanted to do a third party integration to start with. But eventually, in my app, I want to do a number of different third party applications integrations, right? So it automatically started doing integration for a couple of other third party services, just because I had that in my original PRD that, eventually the app will do this. So I have to stop it, that don't do it first. Let's only focus on one of the third party services that we want to integrate, and only when that is done we will figure out what needs to be done. So collaborate it, plan with it, work with it, sit with it. Most of the AI tools that you are working with now will show you what they are thinking, what they are doing. If they go in areas which they should not, then you stop them, you work again with them. Most of the tools are designed with human in the loop concept, which means that you can interrupt them and you can share your feedback with them. So please do that. Please do not leave it alone, and don't consider it as a black box who will figure out how to do things. Work with it. Fine, that is number one. The second thing is setting realistic expectation. This is very important. As I said, do not try and give it a large PRD and think that it will be able to do all of that on its own. It will definitely start on the right track, but you will find it that very soon it will start going into different, you know, different paths, which perhaps is not what you intended to do. So a very good idea is to work in bits and pieces. To give you a practical example, if you have to do a web application, start with a sketch. Design a sketch on your notepad, upload it, and only for one screen, not for multiple screens, and ask it to design that screen based on your the color combination or styles that you have in mind. Tweak it until it is finalized. When it is finalized, then upload another sketch, repeat the process, and then bind the two screens together. Fix the navigation. Then do the third screen, like that. So the idea is that step by step, you complete the prototype of your application first, only with dummy data. Ask it explicitly not to add any functionalities, not to add any real code, only dummy data, only mock data, and do the prototype first. So work with only one thing at a time, and do not overload it with a lot of or a big requirement. Then do not blindly trust what it says. This is something that we have already covered. If it gives you certain ideas, always ask for the ideas to the AI agent that you are using, but it gives you the ideas also. Explore on your own, figure out whether those are valid or not, and throw your suggestions as well, and then come up with a plan together. Fine. And as I said, also, most of these AI tools now, they support reading external links. So do not be shy of throwing external links back to the AI agent and say, "Hey, read this document, and do you think we can do this? And then if we can do this, what is the plan? How can we do it? Get that plan, keep it somewhere else, then start working on step one. If it starts going in different directions, bring it back. Say focus on step one only, and having that plan externally available helps you as well, because then you both know what is step one, step two, right? So it's easy. Otherwise it gets very difficult to tell it like what is step one, where were we, what we were doing, bringing it back to your original plan. So that's that. The second category is communication best practices. You have to be very clear when it comes to the instructions. Initially, what I've tried is I gave it screenshots, for example, of the error. Let's say the prototype that I wanted to create it was not created the way I wanted it in the first go. Then what I did is I took a screenshot of it and I threw it back at the AI agent, and I was like wondering that it will be able to figure out what is wrong. There were some alignments issues. Logo was not there, so instead of logo it was showing a placeholder, that too like a red cross, and I thought it will be able to figure it out, but it doesn't always do that. So whenever you are sharing feedback or instructions, be very precise and be very clear on what is happening, what is it that you want it to do. That helps a lot. Then do not share the logs and screenshots of error messages and add instructions. Again, the same thing. Then again, apply your technical expertise. So, for example, and this we will cover in the troubleshooting and debugging, so I'll skip this one, third one for now. But if you are a developer or a product manager, or someone who has been working with technical teams in the past, then get yourself abreast with the basic concepts of oops, basic concepts of database, SQLs, AI agents, multi AI agent frameworks, and MCPs, for example, nowadays. And if you are not clear on some of these concepts, for example, MCP is so new that even I was struggling with it initially. One of the best ways to build that knowledge is, rather than Googling or rather than watching the YouTube videos, the best way nowadays is to go back to Claude or ChatGPT and ask it to explain it to you in the most childish terms. And then what happens is that you can ask it follow-up questions, and you can keep asking follow-up questions until in your mind the concept is very, very clear, right? So do that, and once you have those concepts clear, then utilize that technical knowledge to speak with the AI agents in a way that it understands what you're talking about. So yes, with vibe coding, you don't really need to understand the technicalities behind the scene, what is happening behind the scene. But if you have that expertise or the knowledge or the experience, and if you use the correct words or the correct language with it, give it the right instructions with the correct technical words as well in the place, then the output are even better, right? So if you have that understanding, use that, please. Let's go to the third one. Third one is troubleshooting and debugging. So enhanced monitoring. So what I always do is, once my prototype is complete and now I want to do the functionality part of it, again I will just focus on one part of it, as small as one button click, right? I will not say that, this entire page has this functionality, this is what we need to do. No, that is still very large scale. Just focus on one button click or one menu item or one functionality on that page. And there is nothing new here. This is exactly how you used to code manually. When you are given, let's say, when you are working on a product and when you are writing a new application, you don't do everything simultaneously together, right? You do only one thing at a time, and you perfect it by repeating it so many times. You'll write some code, you will run it, you will troubleshoot it, it will fail, you will figure out, you'll put breakpoint, you'll figure out where it is going wrong. Once you have figured out where it is going wrong, you are going to go ahead and change the code. If you are not able to figure out what is going wrong, then what will you do is you'll write logs, for example. So whatever troubleshooting mechanism that you used to use in your traditional coding, please use it here as well. So when you are vibe coding, a lot of it writes a lot of code, and it writes a lot of code at AI speeds, super fast speeds. It's very difficult for us to comprehend what it has written, what are the files. I very much encourage that if you are a technical person, vibe coding, please go ahead, look into the code files, look into the structure, have an understanding of how it is architecting your application. In fact, have a good control of how the application is architected based on that PRD that you gave it earlier. Then keep looking at the changes. And then what I do is I ask it to write a lot of logs, right? The console logs. So what happens is that if I click a button and if it is not doing what it is supposed to do, then I can go and check the console logs and see what is happening. Then what I also do is I copy paste that console log and feed it to it, and with a clear set of instructions that look into the logs, see, this is what is happening at this log, and looks like this is wrong, and this is how we need to fix. What do you think? I don't say that fix it like this. I say, what do you think? So it comes back and it gives me some ideas. Some of their ideas, some of the ideas from the AI is fantastic. Some of my ideas are good. And then again, you have a plan. Then you ask it to do what you are supposed to do, and then perhaps it will be able to figure that in most cases it is able to figure that out. So write a lot of logs, and if you are writing a lot of logs, there are multiple ways through which you can share feedback to your AI agent or the IDE or any tool, Replit or Lovable, that you are using. One is sharing screenshots. If something is going wrong on your screen, take a screenshot, share it with it. Second is asking it to write a lot of logs, console logs, that you can see, that you can copy paste. That way you have a visibility in terms of the code's flow, what is happening exactly in the code. And if something is going wrong, log that. Don't only log the exceptions, in fact log even the cases, the positive cases, the overall flow, right? So that you know that what is happening behind the scene, and then share that as well. That is the second way of sharing feedback. The third way of sharing feedback with your AI agents or the tools is that developer tools on your Chrome, right? If you don't know how to use them, I sincerely ask you that you build some skills around that, because that helps a lot. So if you create, for example, a web application, if you are developing, it helps a lot to understand how the developer tools work. And if you already know how they work, that's fantastic. So whenever you are vibe coding an application and troubleshooting it specifically, and it is not working as expected, look into the developer tools, see console logs, see network logs, get the request headers and the responses from there, as much information as you can from there, and share it back again with your AI tool. That way what happens is that um, it is not speculating what could be going wrong. It has some data based on the logs and the screenshots and the details that you have captured from the developer tools. Based on all of that data, it will be able to figure out what exactly is wrong, and it will fix that. So it saves a lot of time, and it fixes the right thing for you, right? So that helps a lot. Always write a lot of logs. Always ask it to write a lot of logs, and share the feedback with your AI tools as much as possible. The fourth thing is the technical considerations. So for, yeah, this is specifically for Replit, and I guess it would also be true for applications like Lovable. Now these are cloud IDEs, which means these are products which help you write new code on their own editor, which is a cloud-based editor, right? So for example, one thing to keep in mind is that one thing to keep in mind here is that this is again specifically for Replit and Lovable and other tools like that, not for Cursor, not for Windsurf for Codium or Visual Studio Code with Agent or with Copilot. Not for that, but any other IDE that is cloud based AI one that you are using. This is very important to understand. So what happened is that I wanted to integrate one of the applications that I'm writing with Google. Okay, and then what happens is that when you have to, if you have done any kind of third party integrations in the past, you know that you'll have to go to the console, in this case Google Cloud Console, write the APIs, do the scopes and all, decide the scopes and all. And one thing that you have to do is to give it a list of authorized URLs from where you will make the request. Also, you have to give it a list of redirect URLs, where after OAuth is done, after the authentication is done, it will send the details back. So you have to give it a redirect URL. And traditionally, when you write code on your machine, what you used to do is you used to give it a redirect URL of your local host. Let's say localhost 5000, localhost 2000, wherever your application is working locally, and that works because you are writing the code locally on your machine. But when you are using a tool like Replit or Lovable, that's not the case, because these are cloud-based IDs. These are cloud-based code editors, right? So what happens is that when you spin up a new project application in these tools, they create a sandbox for you. So the local host is in that sandbox in that cloud. So the overall redirect URL is not localhost colon 2000. It is your sandbox URL, Replit something, some big GUID, that which is the ID of your sandbox, slash localhost colon 2000 will be your final redirect URL that you will need to use temporarily while you are writing the code with these cloud IDs. And eventually, of course, you can remove them or update them. So you can also do flags like when I'm in development, use this. Otherwise, in production, this would be the URL, redirect URL. So keep that in mind, because I spent a lot of time troubleshooting why the localhost 5000 or 3000 from Google's redirect after OAuth was completely done. It was not redirecting back to my application. I was getting a 404, 403 error, and took me some time. Okay. Then the fifth point is safety and recovery strategies. This is absolutely important, very, very important. For example, Replit gives you, in fact, Replit's builds you on what they call is checkpoints. Now, what are the checkpoints? Let's say whenever you are writing an application, after you have achieved a certain milestone, it creates a checkpoint. Replit, if I'm not wrong, costs 25 cents per checkpoint, right? Don't be shy of creating as many checkpoints as possible, because this is how, let's say, if your application goes out of control after a certain stage, you can roll back to the previous checkpoint, a previous good checkpoint, right? So it's always a good idea to create as many checkpoints as you want, and don't be shy of using rollback to the previous checkouts. For example, I'll give you an example. I was doing one screen. I had done the prototype. I had also started writing the code for a couple of applications. It was all great. Then there was a UI change, which was in a component which actually had to be done on all three screens, right? I gave it a quite specific instruction that this particular control we need to change in all these three pages. But what AI did is, apart from changing that control, it also changed the UI on all the three pages. It automatically created new UI for me. My entire UI was gone. That thing was fixed, but it also made a lot of other unasked for changes, which I was not very happy about. And then I started fixing those changes again and again, and I took some time to fix those changes. But then it was not to a level where it was originally. So then I decided that it's not a good idea to go ahead and continue fixing and bringing it back to where it was. Better is to undo the specific change I asked it to do. So what I did is I rolled back to a previous good condition, where the code was. In here, everything, the UI, all three pages, everything was perfect, just that except for that small component. And this time I made sure my instructions were even better to fix that particular piece of control or UI or whatever you need to fix, so that it does not affect in the other areas. So the idea is that feel free to create a lot of checkpoints and use rollback to go back to a last good position, last good place where your code was. And Replit does provide checkpoints, but in Lovable, for example, what it does is you can connect your GitHub account. Replit also you can connect your GitHub account. Highly recommended that whenever you start an application, create a GitHub account, create a GitHub repo, and connect it with your Replit code. That way, what happens is that uh, you can time to time keep pushing the changes to your GitHub account, and you have checkpoints not only available in Replit, but also a good code base available in your GitHub. And I also highly recommend using branches, just like you do it in traditional programming, right? So you have a main branch where all of your good code is, and if you are writing a new feature, create a branch for that in the Replit. Then you work on that specific branch, and then when you are happy, then merge it to the push it to the GitHub first, and then merge there to the main branch. That way, what happens is that your entire code base is safe, and if because of wrong instruction the AI goes haywire, your code still remains safe. You have a way to go back to a good place again and again and again. That gives you a peace of mind, and that also gives you a liberty to try new things, right? Which may or may not work in your favor, but then that works best, because then with these AI tools, the speed is a it's extremely fast, right? So you can try n number of new things and then figure out what works the best for you, and you don't have to worry about it failing because you have a lot of checkpoints, and your code is in GitHub repos properly committed, and in different new features are done in different branches. Nothing fancy here, just the old traditional logic still applies, right? So that was all about it. I hope this helps. I wanted to show you a lot of UI as well, but I don't think that was needed much. And yeah, that's it. Let me know if there are any questions, and happy vibe coding. See ya. Bye.